All right, it is 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. How's everyone doing today? Awesome. Oh, okay. Awesome. What's good to see everybody here, and hopefully everybody had a wonderful weekend. Had a pretty good weekend, just a lot of work, but it was chill. So just to kind of jump right in, we got a lot of stuff we have to go over today, actually. First and foremost, let's go ahead and check the deadlines over here. So this Wednesday, what is it? We are going to have what is it? Let's see. So your first assignment is due. So week one, the line and shapes packet. So make sure to get that into the folder Wednesday before class starts. Also, batch two of the photos are going to be due on Wednesday. Did I say we're going to vote today also? Did I say that? No. Okay, sorry, I got confused with a different class. Okay, so we're not gonna be voting today, but batch two is gonna do on like Wednesday. So for those of y'all, what is it, who want to get started voting early, there are some posts up there. You're welcome to always get started, like helping people out. But if you haven't posted last week, you have to post this week. They are gonna be for points. Okay. Anybody have any questions about the deadline so far? Awesome. Okay. So other than that, let's see. So I just kind of want to give you all a timeline of like what's going to be happening next week and stuff. So next week, I'm gonna get started on the Project One demo. Okay, so I'll have like a room and I'll show you how we set up like perspective grids and how we like tackle like interior in 2 point perspective. Um, what is it? On week five, we're probably gonna have an optional critique. Okay, so I for critiques in the class, like they're mostly gonna be optional. I really leave it up to y'all. I'll talk about it a little bit more later. But in general, like we're gonna have an optional critique. So for those of y'all who want to get a little bit of feedback with like your assignment, you can post your stuff up around week five and we'll take a look at it. But other than that, anybody have any questions about what is it? Our I guess like what we're doing today before we get started with what we're gonna with the main stuff. Awesome. Okay. I apologize. Yeah, we're not voting today. So today we have a what is it? Forms and perspective packet. Oh shoot, I forgot to. Oh no, it's here. Okay. Wait, sorry, not forms and perspective. We got forms and textures. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, on the very bottom of the week three Monday module, it should say week three values and textures packet. This assignment is also due. I don't know if I put a due date yet. I might have forgotten to do that, but let's just go ahead and double check super quick. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's due week eight. So if you want to download it through here too, you can also click on this, and we'll be doing all of this stuff like basically within this week. Anybody have any questions or anybody having any trouble looking for this before I guess like we jump right in? Awesome. Okay. Really quickly, first and foremost, if you are in my digital painting class, there's going to be a little bit of overlap today. Okay. My digital painting students, I want to go over the assignment with y'all really quickly, and then afterwards, like I want to talk about it together as a class. But today we're going to be going over values. We went over values like on week two in the digital painting class. This is like the same exact packet. What I want my digital painting students to do instead is this. So if you're in my digital painting class, you already did this assignment and you don't have to do it again. Okay. Just like you don't have just submit the one from the digital painting class. That's totally fine. On this part though, over here, what I would like y'all to do for my digital painting students is in digital painting, we did a sphere, a cone, and a cube. What I would like y'all to do instead is I would like y'all to choose, well, I want y'all to tackle the cylinder. And instead, I want y'all to choose four different lights, three other forms and different light sources that y'all haven't like tackled yet. So maybe try to do like backlighting or something like that. For everybody else in the class today, we will be doing this like together. So we'll be like tackling like how to like blend, how like forms work with like values, and also we're gonna be like painting some forms too. So we're gonna do a little bit of like digital painting, digital rendering today. But what we're gonna do on Wednesday is we're gonna jump into texture. So we're gonna like learn. So we need to learn how values work. So that way we can understand how to create textures with form, right? So if we understand how, like, what a core shadow is, what reflective light is, we should be able to understand how to use these in order to create texture with form. Does that make sense, everybody? Awesome, awesome. So we're gonna start off like talking about this stuff. We're gonna talk about values. Again, I apologize, but digital painting students, this is gonna be a little bit of overlap. So if you wanted to like just get started working on like your what is it, your four like renders over here, you're welcome to do so. The only difference is that you have to draw them out this time. This is a digital drawing class. Okay. Let's see. All right, let's talk about values, y'all. And digital painting students, since y'all already had this lecture, just hold off on the questions on answering them unless nobody can answer. You already seen the show. Okay, so this is a really good worksheet or a really good note sheet that I want to just kind of go over. So let's go ahead and talk about values. Okay. So last week we talked about forms, but more as like a more in a descriptive like drawing sort of sense, right? Like we learned how to draw forms, we learned how to like wrap forms around all that stuff. Sorry, this is so slow. There we go. Okay. We learn how to wrap forms. We understand like how like forms kind of like look as like a wireframe. But today I want to teach y'all a little bit about values so that we can understand how to texture. Okay. So value, anybody know what values are in like art? In visual art. Yes, Alyssa? Yes. So it's a word used to describe how light or dark a color or a shade is. Okay. So, which by the way, is colors have values too. You'll have to remember that. Okay. Like if I ask y'all which one is like darker, like yellow or purple, okay. And don't say like, oh, it could, it depends on like, there could always be the same value, yellow and purple, right? Usually, like people are going to think like a general yellow and purple on like a color wheel. The yellow is probably going to be lighter than the purple, right? But values, okay, is a word used to describe the light or darkness of the color or shade. So, for example, if I asked y'all, like, what is the value of, oh, shoot. Sorry, give me a moment. Okay. So if I asked y'all, so like, what's the value? Is the value of like this Cintiq like light, dark, or medium? This is like a dark value, right? The walls over here, those are a much lighter value. The tables over here, this is like a medium value. They're like grays, right? So there are tons and tons of values, okay? Usually, so this is what we call a value scale. Anybody never seen a value scale before? Awesome. Okay. So this is what we call a value scale. So it ranges from all the way like so white being like extreme light and black being extreme dark. Okay. And in between the value scale, usually we have 10% increments when we show them like in like a traditional like value scale, but like it could go anywhere in between those two, like 1%, 2%, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. Right. Now we don't ever have to be that detailed about it, but in general, like, it's good to know that there's a full range of values that we can use in between those. Now, value contrast is the difference between one value versus another. So, for example, okay, this value, oh, shoot, not again. Okay, this value over here, okay, compared to like the wall, it has a very high contrast because this is really dark and this is really light, right? But if I asked y'all like the value, if I asked y'all to compare like the value of like the top of this table to like maybe like the rubbery like edges that are on there, they'll probably be like a much lower contrast because they're like a lot closer in like shade. Does that make sense, everyone? Awesome, awesome. Okay, so let's talk about how to use values. Okay, now values, like one thing they do is they help us describe depth. Okay, they help us describe how deep something is. The darker we see like a form shadow or a cast shadow, usually the more light is being blocked, right? So that can like be like in any sort of case, whether it be the amount of light in the room or like how deep the room is and like how dark it is, right? But really quickly, y'all, let's talk about two kinds of shadows first. I already kind of said them: form shadows and cast shadows. Okay. Sorry, it looks like we have someone in the chat say something. Give me a quick moment. Yeah, so what is it? My digital painting people, y'all again. Y'all can just get started on the assignment. Like today is probably just going to be a work day for y'all because we already talked about this before. But okay, form shadow versus cast shadow. Okay, so who can tell me what a form shadow is, and who can tell me what a cast shadow is? Yes, Todd.
Cat shadow is a shadow created by an object being in front of a light source.
Mm-hmm.
A form shadow is a natural shadow on an object.
Yes, exactly. So if I have my hand up at the light, okay, and like you can see like on my like what is it, jacket too, there's like light hitting the top of my jacket and like the bottom part is like darker, right? These shadows are my form shadows. But if there's a projection of a shadow as a result of light being blocked, so if like a shadow of my hand is being projected on my face, that would be a cast shadow because the light is being blocked and is projecting that shadow. Uh, awesome. Good work. Anybody have any questions about that? Nice. Okay, so let's talk about the anatomy of form shadows first and the anatomy of cast shadows. Yeah, because we got to talk about because in order to like understand form, we have to understand how to control these things. So just to kind of start off, I'm gonna make a new layer, and y'all can just watch for now. Um, Also, like I'll give you all the notes, so don't worry. So let's go ahead and start with the sphere, and this is like the base color of the sphere. Okay. There's no light source right now. There's no shadow. Like if I just had to choose one color, like a paint color to paint a ball with, it would be this color. Okay. Now, in order to create form, all you need is two shades, light and dark. Okay. Anybody seen Frank Miller's Sin City, like the comics? Oh, nice, nice. Like the art is like beautiful, right? So, Frank Miller's Sin City. So just to kind of show y'all, it only uses two values. It's like very noir. And you can see like with just two values, you can describe a lot of form, whether it be with line work, big shapes for the shadows, but with just like a couple of like, what is it? Just with a couple like markings, right, and also block-ins, you can create tons and tons of forms this way, as well as like different values too. Like the what is it? The density of the textures is what's going to help create value. Like if we have more space in between these, it's going to look lighter, and if we use thinner lines, it's also going to look lighter, right? So you really only need two values to create form. See, look at that. That's awesome. You can tell right away like which parts are like wrinkling up, which parts aren't, where like the light side and dark side of the face is. Like you really only need two values, y'all. So just to jump back into here, let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy of a shadow, of form shadows. So first and foremost, whenever we're working with like form shadows, we have a light side and dark side, like I mentioned. Okay, so here's my light side versus dark side, right? Now, who can tell me what the where the light side and dark side meet? What is that called? Like the line, like right there. Awesome, Terminator. Yes, this is the Terminator. Okay, and it goes all the way around. Okay, and by the way I want y'all to think about like what is it like spears and stuff too is like how like when you look at a sphere, like the dark side of the sphere kind of looks like when I used to work with kids, like we used to call them banana shadows because they kind of look like bananas, right? Like if you look at the shape, they're kind of like crescent shape, right? Now you have to kind of understand when like the reason why it kind of looks that way, y'all, is let's just say I have like a sphere. Let me make it a little bit lighter, a sphere over here. Okay. If I have light coming down, so if I have light coming down this way, so if I have light coming down this way, it's like coming down, like in this direction, right? What's going to happen is, and this ball, let's just say this ball's on its side view. Okay, we're looking directly on its side view. What's happening is we're going to have a shadow right here, kind of like that. And if this is our table, so if this is our table over here, what's happening is these parts where the light is coming down, this starts to be in shadow. Light starts to be blocked here. So it's creating a dark side just like that. And what's going to happen, it's going to project a cast shadow right underneath it. Does that make sense so far, everyone? Awesome. So because the light is coming at an angle, so we'll add like a highlight here like in a bit. Because the light is coming at an angle, I want y'all to like understand when we actually look at the shadow and it's like round like that, it's the same as saying like, okay, like if this is the middle line right here, we can't see the other side because it's flat. When it's like angled a little bit, it's kind of like this. So that means that like light coming this way, and then this part is being blocked, right? And it's gonna like create like a shadow, kind of like that. Probably like gonna go back a little bit because light's coming from the front. Does that make sense, everyone? Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it helped me a lot to like understand like what is it, like how light is being blocked that way. So what's kind of good to know is so we have the light side and dark side, right? So to kind of start off, let's go ahead and talk about the light side. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is going to be the highlight. So the highlight is going to be right here. And who can tell me what a highlight is? Well, what's up? Yeah, where the light is hitting the object the strongest, right? This area is the brightest because when light is coming down and hitting this part, this is actually probably the closest to the light source. So let's just say this is the lamp right here, and the lamp is like projecting out this way. Okay. What's going to happen is it's going to hit this part first. That's going to be the lightest. And then from there, as it kind of like goes away, it's going to get darker and darker and darker. Right. So this area is probably going to have the strongest light source that we can have. And depending on the reflectivity of the texture, it could be more reflective and brighter. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the midtone transitional values, which are going to be right here. And this is the light side for them too. There's a dark side too. But all the way down to the terminator, all of these shades that go from the highlight all the way to the terminator, this is what we call the midtone transitional light. So from here to here, all of the shades that are in between, you could say that those are your midtones. Anybody have any questions about the light side before we talk about the dark side? Awesome. Okay. So just to talk about the dark side, like electric powers. Wish I had like a hood. So, first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about the core shadow. Who can tell me what the core shadow is and how it works? Yeah. Mhm. Sorry, what's up? Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. It's like the darkest part of the core of the form shadow and usually created off like the reflective light, right? Now, the core shadow generally is the main shadow you want to hit for your form. Okay, it's going to help describe like your form the best. And usually the way that you can think about it is now, and actually before we talk about that, let's also talk about like the reflective light too. Now, we also have the reflective light as we just mentioned, right? Who can tell me what the reflective light is?
It's
Yes, Melissa?
oh,
Awesome. Yes. So let's just say we have a table and we have a light source coming down this way again, right? What's going to happen is, let's just say some of the light over here, it opens up a little. Let's make the cone a little bit bigger. Okay. Which, by the way, something I want to talk about, y'all, is light cannot bend. Okay. Like you can't shoot a flashlight and all of a sudden turn it into like an S shape or a C shape. Okay. But light can bounce. All right. And we can change like the way light radiates depending on like the form that we put the light in. So if we put light inside of like a cone, like because like if we have like just a ball of light, like the sun, it's going to radiate out in all directions, like a light bulb, right? But if you cone it in a direction, it's going to like fan out like a cone. But if you like turn it, if you put it in like a cylinder, it'll turn into a spotlight. It'll go in a straight line. So we can control like the way it like shoots out, but we can't make it like bend into like curves, not without like any sort of like special sort of like materials at least and things like that. But we're going to have some of the light hit the table, and what will happen is some of the light, it's going to bounce this way, some of it's going to bounce this way, some of it's going to bounce this way, some of it's going to bounce this way towards us, some of it's going to bounce the other direction, kind of like that, right? Some of it's going to be a little bit lower, but it's going to bounce in all these different directions. And some of the light is going to bounce back and hit this back part of the ball, okay? Or this back part of the form. So when that happens, let's go ahead and grab our brush again. When that happens, some of the light's going to hit the back and it's going to make it a little bit brighter. So if I just kind of turn off these notes, you could see without that like reflective light, it still looks like a ball, but it kind of adds a little bit of extra like depth into it. You see that, right? Anybody have any questions about the reflective light and form shadow before we talk about the midtone darks? Awesome. Okay. Now for the midtone darks, it's really easy to understand. It's basically like the transition between the core shadow to like the reflective light. Now I want to ask y'all, when do we not have a reflective light? Yes.
Object is not on a surface, like if it's floating or,
Hmm.
yeah, just not sitting on a surface.
Yeah. If it's not sitting on a surface and the background behind it has no light or nothing to bounce off of, it's going to be dark. So like for example, and also you have to like keep this in mind too, the reflectivity of the object may also catch, different like materials may catch like different amounts of light. But in general, okay, what's going to happen is, so if I have a sphere, so let's just go back to this one over here, the side view, right? And then this part of the sphere is getting like the most light. It's getting the most light hit on it, right? Kind of like this. If there is a surface like this table, it's going to create a little bit of reflective light. In fact, some of the light might even like bounce off of it and like some of the color might hit that surface and make it a little yellow. Now, if we got rid of that table though, okay, so for example, if I was like this whole area now is just pure darkness, what's going to happen is the reflective light, oh shoot, the reflective light is going to disappear because it has nothing to bounce off of. Does that kind of make sense, everybody? Awesome. Okay. So let's see. Let's go ahead and talk about the cast shadow next. Yeah. So talking about the cast shadow, there are three parts of a cast shadow that we're gonna like go over. Now, as we kind of mentioned, a cast shadow is when light is being blocked, right? It's going to project out because of that result. Now, just to kind of, I'm going to use this just to like kind of speed things up. Use a ellipse tool. There you go. Okay. So this is our cast shadow. Now, when we're talking about cast shadows, there are three parts I want to talk about. The first part is going to be the umbra, the second is the penumbra, and the last is the antenumbra. Now, the penumbra is going to be the part that's usually closest to the actual surface of the object. So for example, this ball over here, the area closest to it is where it comes in contact, and it's going to create what's called the umbra. Now, the area right where two contacts make surface, though, is always going to create a really dark line, okay? And this is what we call a contact shadow. Now, if you look at the surface of two things touching, like if I put my hands together like this, like there's no light in between my hands, and now there's like a contact shadow. If you put your keyboard or your what is it, any device on the table where the table touches like your the object that you put the table on, it's going to create a dark line underneath it, and that's called a contact shadow. So anytime two things like have in contact with each other, it's going to create a dark line. Now, the further this object is away, though, from the actual like shadow, the lighter the umbra is going to be. So if I lifted this up, it'll probably look a little bit more, probably maybe look like a little bit more like this. Okay. Does it kind of make sense, everybody? Nice. Okay. Anybody have any questions or anybody like confused? Perfect. Okay. All right. So kind of like going back over here. Now, the penumbra is going to be the main part of the cast shadow. So that's your base right here. It's going to get a little bit lighter as it recedes. So that's also good to know. Like as like your cast shadow like recedes into the distance, it's going to get lighter and lighter. But where like the cast shadow starts to transition back into the light source, like right here, this is what we call the antenumbra. But other than that, anybody have any questions about the anatomy of cast shadows? Awesome. Okay. So I also want to talk about cast shadows really quick in terms of like how to like I guess like determine like the length of them. So for cast shadows, y'all, okay, what's kind of good to know is if we have a light source over here, and let's just say that we have like one stick over here and like another stick over here, okay? What's going to happen is let's go ahead and determine the ground plane first. So if this is the ground right here, right? In comparison, like three-dimensionally, we know one stick is closer to us and one stick is further away, right? Now, if we grab the light and we like shine it on the stick, kind of like that, what's going to happen is it's going to create a cast shadow about this long. If we do it over here, it's the same exact thing. So where the light, the angle of the light hits like the ground plane, that's going to help us determine the length of the actual cast shadow. And it also works on surfaces too. Like for example, like if I wanted to add like a staircase over here, something kind of like that, right? What would happen is this cast shadow would probably, I mean, I'm just going to make this stick a little bit longer too, so it fits the demo better. And what's going to happen, it's probably going to cast a cast shadow here. It's probably going to go up like this, go up like this, go up like this, and then go up like this. Does that make sense, everybody? Oh, sorry, it's probably going to stop right here. It's probably going to stop right here. Yeah, does that make sense, everyone? Anybody have any questions about like what I just talked about? And just to like get the math and science down, it's going to be the height of the light. Oh, bad spelling. Height, the angle, and then distance. So if you can figure out those things, it can help you a lot in just kind of figuring out like where, oh, I guess like, sorry, no, I didn't mess up. Made this longer. So yeah, it should actually like go over here and go up. But anyways, Anyways, that's kind of how it works on a surface though. So if you have the distance of like your object, the angle and the height, you should be able to figure out like how cast shadows sort of project. Anybody have any questions on this before we go over some notes and get started on some exercises? Awesome. Okay. So some final notes on value. So values, so first and foremost, values that separate more tend to produce a sharper edge. So really quickly, y'all, just to kind of show y'all. So let's just say I have like a box. Let's just go ahead and block it in. And let's just say I have this side over here. This side's really, really dark. And this side's a lot lighter. Okay. So if you look at this part over here, you see how like because this is a lighter value and this is a much darker value, it creates kind of a sharp corner, right? Like the contrast between these two values create like a very sharp corner. If you have less of a contrast with each other, so values that separate less with each other, those are going to produce softer edges. So if I have a more of a transition right here, it now doesn't feel as like sharp. Like before it kind of felt like this, where like right when you hit this, we're going to make a turn this way, right? But now it kind of feels like when we go down this road, it's going to curve a little bit and then come down. Does that make sense, everybody? Anybody have any questions? Awesome. Okay. So next thing I want to go over is, what is it? The amount of values is determined by the lightest light and darkest dark found in the image plane. So if we look at the sphere over here, the lightest light is probably going to be the highlight and the darkest dark is going to be like the umbra, right? So the lightest light is probably a 0% and the darkest dark is probably 100%. Because I know this, I know the rest of the values have to be in between here. Now, if I grab this image again, so let's just go ahead and grab it. I do something kind of like this. We now have a much lower contrast. Now, like the lightest light is probably going to be like this part of, oh shoot. The lightest light is probably going to be like this value over here. And the darkest dark is going to be this value over here. So with that, like I know, okay, my range is now in between 60 to 100%. Anybody have any questions or anybody confused about that? Nice. Okay. Next, as long as your values are right, then your picture will read correctly, no matter what colors are used. That is very true. Okay. Your values have to be correct. Like that never changes. Okay. Like usually like shadows like are dark and like what is it? Like where the light hits, it's gonna be brighter. Right? Like that doesn't like change in like science or physics at all. So your values have to always like be right. Okay. Even if you like use the wrong colors, like what is it? Like and there's like a lot of examples too. Like when we watch like was it like Rick and Morty or like things with like sci-fi, they always change the color of like everything, right? But like as long as the values are correct, it's going to read correctly. Now, the last thing I want to go over is values are also determined by how much light is involved in the room. Where there is no light, there's only one value, and that's black. So if you like close your eyes, you're like basically blocking out light. All you're going to see is like darkness, right? Same is going to go for like if we close the lights in the room. If we close all the lights in the room and only leave that door open, the values in this room are probably going to be a lot darker, right? We're only going to have that light source. So depending on the light source that we have in the room, that could determine your range of values. Anybody have any questions on this before we get started on some exercises? Awesome. Okay, let me go ahead and save this so that way y'all can like, y'all can have it. Okay, really quickly, I just want to go over the homework assignment again, just in case there's like just so there's no miscommunication. If you're in my digital painting class, you can skip this first one. Like just submit the same one from digital painting. We're doing like basically the same thing, and you already went over it. For number three, what I want y'all to do for my digital drawing class, I want y'all to use these references, and I want y'all to paint one cylinder, one cone, one sphere, and one cube. For my digital painting students, we already did this on Tuesday. What I want y'all to do instead is I want y'all to do the cylinder. I want y'all to do because we didn't do a cylinder on on Saturday. And instead, I want y'all to choose three other forms of your choice and different light sources. So that way you can practice different light sources. Other than that, though, anybody have any questions before we jump in? Awesome. Okay, so here's what I want y'all to do. Today's exercise, we'll actually be able to like do this first one step by step together, and I just want to like make sure we like actually get this down too. It should be a pretty easy exercise. We're gonna learn how to blend. Well, if I don't have the pens yet, so y'all might yeah, y'all have to go to the other room to rent them out. So how about this? Who needs a pen? Okay, go to the other room. There should be a person on the desk over there. By the way, if that room is open, I don't have the pens. So you'll have to go from the other side, go to 1024. There should be a person on the desk. Have your like student ID ready, and they should be able to give you a pen. Oh, yo. Oh, okay. Some of my students just went to the other room. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. I'll go around and pass out pens. Just have your IDs ready. Oh, okay. Good to know. Thank you so much. Oh, maybe not. Anybody else? Anyone else? Awesome. Hey, so like I said earlier, we're gonna go over blending today and how to paint forms because on Wednesday we got to learn how to blend using textures and what is it? Create forms using textures. So let's go ahead and get started with that. If you want to follow along, go ahead and drag and drop the number two values and forms assignment over here. I'll give y'all a moment too. How many of y'all need a moment to open it up? One person, two people? Okay. I'll wait like a minute or two. So at 7:41, I'll check back. And if we need more time, we'll wait until 7:42. Yes. We're gonna do both of them in digital drawing, but my digital painting students also did this assignment, so they don't have to do this one because like you'd be doing it twice. But for the second one, like what is it? My digital painting students just choose different light sources, so you're practicing different light sources. Digital drawing, we're just gonna do the ones that are on the reference. So what is it? We haven't tackled those yet. All right. Anybody still need a moment to open it? Okay. We're gonna go over how to use a couple tools. Really quickly, does anybody here not know how to use selection tools? Okay, so everybody knows how to use selection tools. Okay, it's pretty easy. All right, we're gonna go. I would recommend to like grab your rectangular marquee tool, and I just want everybody to kind of watch first. For this assignment, we're gonna go ahead and create value scales. Okay, you're gonna blend. The first one we're gonna do is we're just gonna do a very traditional value scale, but without the blending. So we're gonna go ahead and grab. Well, you're gonna blend, but you're gonna use a hard round brush. So hard round. Make sure you don't have any of these buttons on. And for this particular brush, it's going to be really blocky. So you're going to have to manually actually change the color yourself to incrementally create the value scale. So exactly what I'm doing. There shouldn't be any blending for the first one, or there should, or the blending that you'll be doing will be like manual. So you're basically creating the transitions yourself. But yeah, there shouldn't be like actual like smudging or anything like that right now. So first thing I want you all to do, just very, very blocky. Try to get as close as possible too. Like you can see like I'm not trying to like if you have like something like this and it all of a sudden jumps to like something like too high in contrast, like dial it back a little bit. There we go. That's the first one. So I'll give you all like this one shouldn't be too hard. I think everybody can probably finish this in like 2 minutes, if not less. So I'm gonna give you all until 7:45 to do the first one. If you need help, let me know. If you're having trouble using the tools, let me know. I just want to walk around and just check up on it.
We're gonna live.
Oh, perfect day for that.
Yeah.
A little bit more time. Yes. it probably went a little bit to like the reddish side. Sometimes when you grab like grays, like you might like they might like incrementally accidentally move in there. You can go to image and adjustments. You can like desaturate. I think it's the monitor. Yeah, that's like what we've done it all. Good work though. Yep, great transition. Okay, I want to show you all the next part really quick. All right. I want everybody to make a new layer, and I want y'all to, we're gonna delete this layer, or if you want, you can use this layer. I want y'all to go to let's go ahead and turn on the little the waffle up here and also this airbrush. Y'all remember we like talked about these already, right? We talked about in this class, right? For line work. Like the best sketching brush, remember? Yeah, man, I feel you. 'Cause I teach like four digital painting classes and or digital drawing classes, and they're all slightly different. Like I have digital drawing, digital illustration, digital narrative, and digital painting, and they're all generally like similar, but but they have some overlapping. But man, did I go over these things with y'all though? I think I did, right? Okay, thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Okay, so I want y'all to turn on the little waffle and this thing, and I want everybody just practice doing this. You're gonna grab a black and just press really hard, and then press really light, and then press really hard, and then just press really light. Okay, and you can go back and you can try to like do like create like the transitions a little bit better, but just kind of learn to control first. And I recommend make your brush a little bit bigger too. Don't make it too like small. Like you want to try to like master just like being able to like make really smooth transitions. Like imagine you're putting down something really, really heavy, but you have control over like putting it down. Not just letting it drop all the way from like dark to, light just like that. You're creating that transition. And by the way, it's like what is it? If it helps too, like one of my friends, he used to like one of his like practices, he used to really like to like calls them tornadoes. He'll like do something kind of like this to kind of control like the like his hand on like how far he needs to like go. He'll like do different lengths too. He'll go like light to dark. And you can see like I didn't do a very good job controlling there. But if I like do a better job here. So just kind of practice that. When you're done, you can like erase it. We're not gonna keep them. Just so I know, anybody wants like a couple minutes to like practice that still? Okay, everybody's good then? Okay, so I want to show you how to blend. The first thing we're gonna do, so I could just go in and just kind of start blending everything and just kind of like have you all like watch it. But I want to explain the science and like how I break it down. Okay. So first thing I want to go over is whenever I blend, I like try to divide. So for example, okay, we start off with two sides, okay? Whatever tone we want on the left and whatever we want on the right, okay? Now, in order to make a blend, we have to create more tones in between, right? So how do we do that? I'm going to grab, so you can grab the white or the black, it doesn't matter. And what you're going to do is you're going to paint it over the other side very lightly, and it's going to create a midtone. Now, if you hold Alt, you can eyedrop a color and grab the color. I'm gonna grab this gray and I'm just gonna color it in the middle so that there's equal parts. Now with the gray, I'm gonna color over the white and the black, and now I have a mid-tone light and a mid-tone dark. And let's just say that they're all equal spaces. If I grab this, I can do it to these sides. If I go in between these, let's make it a little bit bigger. Oh, shoot. If I go in between these, I can blend these two. Does it kind of make sense what I'm doing, everyone? Like I'm basically going in between two shades and I'm just like trying to blend those edges in with each other. So I would recommend try to break it down this way. And then once you have enough divisions, so I would say like 8 to 10 divisions is usually a good place. You could probably grab these and just start just trying to feather it into the other. By the way, don't use the smudge tool. If you know like the smudge tool, you're not allowed to blend with the smudge tool. I don't want you all to blend with the smudge tool. Smudge tool is not for blending. It can blend. Blending is something that happens with it, but unless it's like a art style choice, like usually we try to use like our brush to blend. It's not really a rule, I would say. It's because like a lot of times when people like smudge stuff, it messes up like edges. And like when we're doing an illustration, you want like hard and soft edges in order to create like a more dynamic feel and also to allow like what is it, people's like eyes to move into like certain parts of the picture too. So like it's usually not recommended to like smudge unless like you're trying to create like textures or something like that. But again, one thing I also want to say too is you learn all the rules to break the rules. And like for art, like, you know, if you wanted to be like a smudge paint artist, you could totally do that too, you know? But traditionally, like we try not to like smudge too much in like digital painting because like it tends to like mess up our edges and textures a lot, you know? But if you do like have like a specific style and that's like how your process is what like creates that specific like look, then that would be like where maybe you would want to smudge more. Hopefully that answered your question though. Any other questions? Nice. Okay. So I just want to check and go around and see how everybody's doing. And we'll probably do the third one and then we'll take a break after. Might even like, well, you know what? No, we'll just wait. Oh, awesome. So let's go ahead and grab we already have black. Just color over the white part. Like, perfect. Awesome. You know, that's a nice work, y'all. Hard ground. Grab. Go ahead and color it. Readjust it so there's equal amount of white. Third white, third white. Grab these colors. basically just keep doing it. Awesome. I used like this is a hard round pressure. First one's just normal hard round. The second one. So use the button up here, or you can choose. All right, I want to show you all the last one, and then we'll take a quick break. Yeah. Okay, the last one I want to go over. I want everybody to watch this because like, this is a really important lesson. And if you're planning to take digital painting next semester, whether it be with me, Garrett, or Bernard, it's really important to like understand this. Okay, and I think like actually like this class is a great class to take before digital painting because you get to learn like all like the drawing side of stuff first without really having to like think about color. But like once you like and like we're gonna do a little bit of rendering too. But like so that way when you get into digital painting, like you'll have like a great idea on like how like most of the setup works and things like that. So really quickly, we're gonna grab a soft round brush with opacity, and I'm gonna go ahead and like make it small, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, so we start off like this. We start off like this. We grab this. Now, as I'm kind of blending it, it's a lot, it feels a lot softer, but it's not like completely, I don't know, smoothly consistent, right? It almost feels like each of these are beveled edges. You all know what I'm talking about, right? Like it almost feels like beveled edges. Now, what I want to go over is your soft brush. When you put down your brush, kind of like this, do you all see how like there's a part of the soft brush that is like really opaque and dark? Like right here, right? And starting from like this area all the way around, if you actually look at it, there is a fall off where it starts to blend back into the surface right here. You all see that, right? Now, the fall off of a brush can be used as texture too. And what I usually like to tell students is a big brush, whenever you have a brush, big brushes and small brushes are both different brushes. So for example, let's just say I have, what is this brush? Oh no, not this brush. It's too stampy. Oh, this brush doesn't really work either. Sorry, give me a quick moment, y'all. Let me upload my brushes. What the? Sorry, I'm gonna have to upload my brushes a little bit later. Anyways, so sorry about that. I'll show you a little bit later. But for the assignment, what I want to go over is when you use a small brush, it's gonna look like you're working on detail because like smaller marks are going to be made. So the fall off of the brush, like unless like if I want to make it a little bit smoother with a small brush, I have to really go back and kind of control my value so that the transition between here to here is a lot more smooth, right? But if I use a really big brush, so if I grab this and I just use a really, really, really big brush, okay, like kind of like this, and I just use the fall off of the brush to create my values, I can get a much smoother transition. Y'all see that, right? Anybody have any questions about this before we take our break? It depends. You use small brush for details, big brushes for big statements. So for this one, I used the big brush so I can make it very, very smooth. But like if I wanted to add more texture or detail, I would use a small brush. It depends. Just for the third one I did. Because for the third one, like I want to use the fall off. So like we just talked about fall off, right? I want to use the fall off of this brush as my blending tool. If I make it small, I actually have to like blend it more because the fall off is not as far. So it looks like a sharp edge. But if I have like a big fall off, kind of like this, it's a lot easier for me to blend one tone to another. Mhm. Oh yeah, we can go back and adjust it always. You can grab a little bit of this, just paint it back over. Yeah, I would use a big brush. And learn how to control with the big brush too, y'all. Like you have to learn how to use big brush and small brushes. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, let's take a quick break. Let's come back at 8:14. Yeah, so like 11 minutes. And when we get back, we will go ahead and continue. Sorry, y'all. I don't know why, but it feels like something's like caught in my throat. If it sketches you all out, like, by the way, it's like if you all think I'm sick or something, you're welcome to like if you want to rush home instead, you're welcome to do that. I don't think I am though. My mouth's just really dry. I've been talking all day. Yeah, it's starting to feel better. What's but again, never give up. That email them and tell them that you are people on student, uh,
Photoshop. So anytime there's something that's like too obnoxiously difficult, I'll just do it.
Okay. I tried, I think I did, yeah, similar, like, I tried really hard to get it on Photoshop.
Mhm.
And I was like, bang my head against the wall.
I know, there's just so much that's like not logical, like, I realized I don't even know how to like circle something and pick it up and move it. You know how you like draw something? You want to just resize it real quick? It's so easy and appropriate, but I can't. I mean, it's probably right in my face, but I can't find it.
I found myself getting confused and having to click through unnecessary settings.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, I just want to do the thing I'm trying to do.
it feels like, I mean, I know it's not programming, but in my artsy brain, it feels like programming or something. You know, but
Yeah,
I don't know. Nothing's really weird, but
that's fine. The brushes and stuff too is like, everything's like, not really pretty or something. I just feel
the brushes actually are. You just have to
like I know there's that, but whatever.
well, I don't use there's. I wish I could like. Oh yeah, well, I mean, they say it usually.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So like, there's hard round, and then you like, there's every different type of hard round. You just have to like scroll through them. So you say like hard round, pressure, size, meaning like your pressure will change size, or their pressure capacity, or both. But it is kind of weird to like click through that stuff and not have it just be on the side.
Yeah, and then some great too, like some of the menus and stuff, they're like big when they need to be big and small when they
Yeah.
need to be small.
Yeah, these I've clicked on them a couple times and accidentally like made it huge and red. Sometimes I've gotten it accidentally pull it off
Yeah,
the screen.
I don't know, Procreate, like the menus and stuff, they seem to kind of just disappear when they, like, when they logically should disappear.
Yeah, but then yeah, this is it's weird.
I don't know.
It's also hard when you. I mean, I have a Mac. It's like I think that's a Mac, but the screen's like this big, so it's kind of hard to work on Photoshop too, just because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of space. Usually in classes when I'll use Photoshop, and then I have Photoshop at home, but
I bought this iPad specifically so I can just drag Photoshop over to it.
yeah,
And I don't know if it's the lag between the pencil and the iPad as a secondary display.
oh, I know what you mean.
That might be it, but there's a definite like half-step lag.
That's actually a good one because I haven't actually a lot at home, but when I use it here, the pressure sensor will not do well. So you make it useful at like when you say you will like down at home, it's probably yeah, it's probably lag. Or the lag could be it lags when you smooth out. You know, smooth it out.
Can't see myself working on something personal, like working on like something that I'm like without.
I know, but I want to get to that point, but it's kind of hard. I can relate that. But
A lot of cool brushes.
yeah, I got a lot of them from Phil's friends. How do you make this? And
Just to get a lot of like types of flash.
All right, let's go ahead and continue, y'all. So this one's really easy. We'll do this one like really quickly together. I think everybody will get it. I'm gonna start off. I would recommend everyone to make a multiply layer. Okay. Did we go over what multiply does? Okay. We're not gonna really use this too much in the class, but just good to know. Multiply just basically like to kind of show you a quick demo. Let me grab like an image from online. Oh, perfect. Picture of Fullerton College. Okay. It looks nice. It has some flowers on the trees and stuff. Okay. If you set a layer on multiply, so you want to go to your layer and you set on multiply, basically what it does is it'll do two things. The first thing it'll do is it'll darken everything. Okay, so for example, if I grab like this gray and I put it at normal and I color it, it's gray, right? Like you could tell, I'll make it a little bit darker. It's gray and you can tell there's gray. If I set it on multiply, it'll darken everything using that gray. So it mixes the color of whatever you put it on top of. So it mixes the gray and blue in that case, and it darkens it. So for example, yes.
Always wondered this, why is it called? I know what multiply does, but why is it called multiply?
It has something to do with like the way like the values of the numbers work, like in the coding, I think. Like because for
The number value.
yeah, like I don't know it specifically, but like for example, color dodge will kind of do the opposite, which is like it'll brighten something and like mix and like kind of mix the tones and saturate it. But if you go to like overlay, overlay will multiply your darks, but what is it like? It'll like color dodge your lights. So it uses like certain values to like push like certain other values and tones. But yeah, that's the best I could explain it with the knowledge I know.
Well, when it comes to
Mm,
stuff like the layer settings,
mm.
visual program, I have no idea what they do. I have to
Oh.
like go through Google rabbit hole. Layer settings.
Mm. If it helps, one really good trick is y'all see how they have like different lines and like this like darken and then we have all of these and then lighten and then all of these and then overlay and then all of these. Everything under darken will darken, but they just darken in different ways. Everything under lighten will lighten, it just lightens in different ways. Everything on overlay will overlay, so it darkens like it like pushes, it multiplies your darks and screens or color dodge your light. So it just does it like differently in these ones. So some of them have like a higher contrast, like hard light. Some of them is a little softer, like soft light. Difference, like it like takes out color. So all of these will take out a certain color depending on what you do. And hue, all of these like alter color in some way. So hue and color will change like whatever you throw it on top of into like the color and it'll try and keep the values. Saturation changes like your saturation. So if you go all the way to gray and you color, it'll like desaturate it. But if you go to like, it doesn't matter which color you choose with saturation. Like I could go to like a very saturated blue, and if I color, it just saturates everything. And then I actually don't know what luminosity does, so I can't explain that. But hopefully that was like kind of like a good mini lesson on like what they kind of do, and that kind of helped me out a lot. It was like I at least know everything in here is going to darken, everything in here will lighten it, and so on. But
I
that's a
think
good question. Any other questions? Awesome. Okay. So multiply is going to darken and mix tones. Okay. So for example, if I get like a gray and I add this on top, it'll darken it. It'll darken it with that gray. So for example, if I turn it off, you can see it's lighter. If I grab like a red, it'll mix. It'll mix with that. It'll mix with the blue. And you see it turns a little bit more purple and darker. Does it kind of make sense what multiply does, everybody? I apologize. Like that cough, like made my throat feel like I'm not sick, but I don't think I'm sick. But that was just a really intense cough. Mhm. It does. It works similarly to Wheel Paint. Not 100% exactly, but it will like be like quite similar. So as long as you like lay like your primaries on top of each other to create your secondaries, what is it? The one thing I would say is like maybe like mud. I guess it does get muddier, you know, as you add more and more tones in, but yeah, it's quite similar to paint in general. That's a great question though. Any other questions? Which, by the way, so if y'all want to like get into like, I would say like, if there's like one class I would recommend to take before, or two classes I would take, well, three if you count the Photoshop class. But other than this class, if you wanted to get into like painting, I would say like color theory would be a really, really good class. And if you haven't taken a traditional painting class, I think everybody who wants to be a digital painter or a digital sketcher or artist needs to take like traditional classes too. Like you learn so much. Like I remember after taking like an outdoor painting class, when I came back to do like my environments, like I was just so much better at color, so much better at brush work, understand lighting a lot better too. And like I because like I painted traditionally, like I was like less prone to making mistakes. So like I didn't have to like rely on like certain digital tools to like get certain effects. I could like actually create them and then use the digital tools to just like polish after, you know. But yeah, all traditional. I'm a huge like traditional like translates to like digital person. So that's kind of how I think of like a lot of my digital work too. Um, anyways, so multiply, here's what's good to know. Black always turns everything to black and white does nothing. It's kind of like multiplying with like one and zero. Okay, that's the best way I can kind of think about it. Now the reason why I want to show you all that is because we have to learn multiply for like these next like we have to use multiply for these next two. I would actually recommend throw your worksheet layer on the very top and then set it at multiply. And what you should notice is, and this is how you like create line work too, is you want to set your line work on multiply. And what will happen is if you have line work that's like black, all of the colors will like all the line work will stay and you can actually color within the lines. So it kind of look like this. So if I turn off multiply, we don't see anything. But if we multiply the worksheet layer, on top of like the other things that we painted on, we can see the line work on top. Any questions before we jump into these two? Mm-hmm. So like a lot of times, like for example, like if I'm like doing like line work, like if I like if I'm like drawing like a character or something. So if I have like a character over here, just a really quick one. And I want to like add like color into it. And let's just say this, like you know how sometimes some people like to use like white to like erase, right? Like they'll add white on top of like their sketch and then they'll like fix it up after, right? If you don't use multiply and you start coloring in these parts. So let's just say I want to like color in the hair, right? I want to use this color. You can see the parts that are used with white, like they like peek through. But if I go to to the line art layer and I set this at multiply, the white doesn't peek through anymore. But like I could still color on top of the black lines and still see the black lines. So that's kind of like the nice benefit about like multiply is like I okay, so like for digital painting I use it a lot for shadows actually, but like for a digital drawing I use it so like I can like put my line work on top of like the things I want to color. Does that kind of make sense, everyone? Anybody like super confused?
Multiply on the line layer or the.
The line layer. So this is the multiply layer and this is the line work. And then this is going to be like color or values, like down here.
Putting the line work in terms of the stack on top.
Like if I put the colors and values on top, yeah, unless we multiply this too, but you don't want to multiply the colors because like what if like you use another color underneath and that mixes? So like it's a lot better to like probably have like your line work multiplied and just have your colors underneath. So that way if I want to use a different color, like for like the skin tone, like it doesn't like overlap on top of each other or like, you know, blend. Does it kind of make sense, everyone? Anybody have like any questions or anybody confused? Awesome. It's a good tool. I'll probably be using it for project two actually when we like do our portrait renders. Okay, this is really easy. What I want y'all to do is just copy this. Okay, so first this is gonna be this color. This is gonna be this color. Okay, so first part is just coloring. The second part is I want y'all to label these parts. And by the way, I have to change this a little bit. Number two and three are a little bit confusing, or some people get confused with like number two, number three, and number four. So I'll accept a couple of answers for like two and three in general, but let's go over them together. So what's number one, y'all? What is that? What is it pointing to? Yeah, highlight. How about number two? Yeah, halftone. These are going to be our light halftones though, because they transition from the highlight to like the next part. So you can put light halftones, light midtones. Those are both fine. You can also use by the way, it's like they also have like text tools. So if you want to like type it, that's fine too. What's number three, y'all? What's this like really, really dark shadow right here? Close. Oh, close. Which what? Core shadow. Yes. Does that make sense, everybody? Like what to do for this? Awesome. Okay. This one is really easy too. For this one, I just want y'all to copy this too. So you can use your eyedropper tool, and I just want y'all to color this in like a coloring book. Just practice using multiply and also practice using your layers. Like you can like use like different layers for like different depths. So maybe you, as we go closer to the foreground, like for example, maybe I want to color over this part, right? And then I want to overlay a different color for the buildings. I can make a new layer. I can grab this. And because the multiply is on the line work layer, then line work is never going to change. And I can actually have these on three separate layers overlapping each other. Oh, shoot, I did this on the same layer. But I can have different layers overlapping each other and not have it affect the line work. So for example, if I'm like doing this part and I like color up to here and I color some of the rock on the bottom right, I can make another layer on top and I can color on top of the rock and it'll cover up that part. But for this section, I literally just want y'all to copy this. Just use your layers, organize it how you want. Anybody have any questions on this before we jump to the second half of the exercises? Awesome. Okay, let me save this. Okay, the final part of today's assignment is we're gonna go ahead and paint some forms. If you are in, again, if you're in my digital painting class, I would like you to do the cylinder and just choose three other ones like from the sheet. Three other ones from the sheet right here. Okay, it just can't be like the first ones because like those are the same as like the ones we did on like Saturday. For my digital drawing only students, so if you don't have me for digital painting, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this page and we're gonna do this page. So y'all are just basically gonna copy these. Okay. Oh, also really quickly, y'all, I always get people not follow this part of the directions. Make sure to read all your directions. It says make sure to also what is it? Sketch the light source, like in the sphere example page, and label each one of the forms from the reference sheet. So I want y'all to label where the highlight is, the halftones, the core shadows, and all that stuff. Okay, I will be grading off of that. So if you're missing, like, what is it, like where the highlight, like just literally just write highlight and just draw a line pointing to it. Okay, like it just copy this. Like if you copy this, like that's the best instruction I can get. Just copy everything you see, like picture, like by picture, word for word. Anybody have any questions before we jump in? Yes. Oh, texture, if you want to, that's fine. But yeah, as long as you get like your base form, that's all I'm looking for. So I will be like looking at your blending. I will be looking at that, but I won't be like too picky about like the grains on that. Like for now, like we'll worry about texture next week. But that's a good question. Any other questions? Awesome. Okay, so I want to show you how we get started. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this into here. And one really cool trick, did I show y'all the two window thing? Okay, if you go to Windows and you go to Works, go to Arrange, you can actually arrange your windows. So I like to do two up vertical. And now I can see like two pages like this. So Windows, Arrange, and then you can choose. Okay. For anyone who wants to take notes, like right here. Now, it's always going to take your first image and put it on the right-hand side. Okay. I'm guessing it's because like, it's assuming that I'm right-handed. I don't know how to change that, but that's just good to know. So if you want your window on the left-hand side, just make sure that it's the second tab. Okay. Now, really quickly, we're going to start off with sketching. I'm going to make a new layer. And for this part of the assignment, I cannot do it step by step. So if you want to watch, you can watch. If you want to like do it, you can do it. It's up to you. Okay. But I will not be redoing demos. So what that means is if I finish the sphere and you don't watch it, I'm not going to redo the sphere. Like you're just going to have to rewatch the recording. Anybody have any questions before I get started? Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to start drawing. Let's go and draw the sphere first. Okay. Going to resize it, put a little bit bigger. I'm not going to be really picky about your proportions too, y'all, by the way. It's just make sure like it's close to the reference. I like to make my sphere a little bigger too, just to fill up the page. And then kind of like this. So I like to just start off with like a really basic sketch, okay? And for your sketch, whenever you're doing like a drawing and you render, I would say like if you're doing line work, you have to like clean it up like after. But if you plan to cover up your line work, what I'd say about that is like draw as much as you need until you're ready to start coloring. If you start coloring and you know you're going to make proportional mistakes while like coloring and shading, you didn't do enough drawing. So that's like usually everybody's like, oh, how much should I draw before I start like adding in tones, right? Like if you're gonna mess up on the drawing part while you're adding tones, then that means you're not ready to add tones. So get all your line work done first, make sure it looks good, and then move on to the next step. Okay. It's kind of like working out of order if like for anything else, right? So you always want to make sure you're scaffolding off of good foundation. So really quickly, okay, I think this is pretty good to go. Here's how I'm going to start off. So anytime we start off, I like to get the lightest light and darkest dark first. Okay, so this is going to be for the background. I'm just going to use like my marquee tool like we were using before. I'm just going to go ahead and block that in black. Let's go and set my line work at multiply. And for the ground plane, I'm going to put that on a separate layer. And we're going to set that as gray. Something kind of like this. What the? Go. There we go. Why is this disappearing? That's so weird. They're not even on the... Oh, are these on different layers? Oh, no! That's okay. That's an easy fix, actually. I'm just going to Command Z it. There we go. Let's merge these down. Let's do this. We'll start with the gray this time, since I already have it. Now let's make another layer. To deselect stuff, you can hold Alt. If you hold Alt, you can like subtract selections. So now I only have this. Block it in black. And then what I want to do is, so I would recommend, basically what you got to do is you got to block things in, right? So if you wanted to like block in your sphere, you would basically color it on one color. So this is where you would go into your line work and just color everything one tone. Okay, so this is our sphere. And if it helps too, something y'all can do is you can lower the opacity of your layers, like right here. So that way it's a little bit easier to see how your sphere looks without line work. So I like to put it like super, super low. So that way I can go in and be like, okay, so now that I see like how my painting actually looks like, I can go back in and like readjust like different parts of the ball so that it feels like a little bit better. Now, you can also make a selection. So if you also wanted to use like a ball, you can also do that too. But the reason why I wanted to show y'all a manual painting is because not every single shape is going to have a selection that's already ready for you. You are going to have to manually create your silhouettes a lot of times. Okay, like for example, if you're painting like Batman, you have to like paint, you have to block in all of Batman's silhouette. There's no Batman selection tool, right? So it's just good to know, like usually we do paint these things in, but if you can use your selections to like clean it up, that's totally fine. And then like for the shadow, it would be the same thing. So like if I wanted to, right? Let's make a new layer. I do something kind of like this. Just get my shapes in. Something kind of like that. Anybody have any questions so far before I move forward? Nice. Okay. So I'm going to turn off this like line work layer. So we only got like, this is what I like to call just a graphic design of the painting or the drawing. Just flat shapes. Okay. This is enough for us to know that there's a ball on the table, right? Now, the next thing we're going to do is I want to go into this over here, and I want to show you all another trick. If you hold control and you click on, you all see the thumbnail of my, let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. You all see these thumbnails over here, right? If I hold control and I click on them, it'll make a selection of everything in that layer. So if I add another circle over here and I did that, it'll make a selection of this circle too. You see that, right? It's a really useful tool. So I'm going to make a selection. And here's what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and add light side versus dark side first. Just like this. So I'm just using you see a big round brush. Remember y'all, big round brush, a big brush for big statements first. If I use a small brush, look at what's going to happen. I have to paint all this in. There's going to be texture. I have to go back in and like blend these parts like properly. It's a lot of work. Okay. I mean, you can do that. That's fine if you're trying to go for like something like that has a little bit more texture. But like to me, like I would just like to make big statements. Let's try to get it done quick, right? Like I can say like, okay, I need light side versus dark side first. So big round brush, light side versus dark side. Let's grab some of this color and just clean up the shape. Highlight. Let's add like the mid-tone lights. Let's push it a little bit more for the highlight. And then let's go ahead and grab some midtones and just add a reflective light. And boom, we got our sphere. Now, if I want to make it a little bit more painterly, I can grab some of the hard brush and I can just add a little bit of hard brushes, just like this. And you can see like just like the little imperfections of like just adding the hard brush makes it feel a little bit more like a digital painting. You see that, right? Like it adds a little bit of texture. Now, you don't have to do this for this assignment. This is all I'm looking for right here. Right here. Along with like going over here and probably doing the same thing too, which is like this over here, cleaning this up. Oh, shoot. All right, did it wrong. Like, so we still got to do the cash shadow back here. And then for this, like you can see, like I'm definitely using a much smaller brush to kind of like shape in where the umbra is supposed to be, and also just to like create like the fall off of the antenumbra. Like I'll use a smaller brush if I need it to look sharper. So you see, it still gives me a soft edge, but it feels sharper because it's a small brush. But if I use a really big brush, it's gonna feel a little bit softer when it like blends into like that surface, right? So I can use like a big brush maybe for like the end over here, kind of like that. But I want to maybe use a smaller brush as it gets near like the object just to kind of show that. And that's the thing too, if you like put your finger on like, or like you put your foot on like the floor and the light is like coming down, it's going to get a little bit sharper and darker as it gets closer to your finger or that surface, casting the shadow. So we can use a sharper brush for this part here, even though it's soft, and use a harder brush, use a bigger brush for these parts to like blend it a little bit more to like the table. Does that make sense, everyone? Anybody have any questions so far? Nice. Okay, and then for the table, just gonna make a selection. It's like darker towards the back, lighter towards the front. If you want to add texture, that's fine. I'm not going to be like grading it off of that though, but if you really want to like push it a little bit more, like you just add like a little bit of imperfection in some parts. Like just yeah, make sure it's not obvious though. Like when you add this stuff and like you're going like you do like something like you do something like this, like that doesn't really make sense, you know? Like I would maybe like think about like how can I loosen this up a little bit more without losing my form shadow? And you see, that can make things look a little bit more painterly. It can make it a little bit more like sketchy too. Hatches, things like that, scribbles. If I just add like a little bit of like scribbles on some of these parts, you see like the little imperfections already make it feel more like a drawing. You see that, right? But once you're done with everything, make sure to label your form shadows. Anybody have any questions on the first one before I move on to the box? Yeah. Like you mean how I like what do you mean by that, I guess? Oh, like how do I like select everything on a layer? So hold control. If you're on a Mac, it's command and just click on the thumbnail of your layer. You see, like this is like my writing, so it's only selecting all my writing. Is that what you're asking? Okay, awesome. My pleasure. Any other questions, y'all?
But you put the picture side by side. Not that-
Oh, like how do I do it like this? I'll go to Windows, Workspace, oh sorry, Arrange, and then like you can choose any of these. So right now I only have two images, so these are the two options I have. But if you have 3 to 4 or 6 images, like you could set them up these ways too. Is that what you're asking? Oh, am I copying this? Oh yeah, yeah. Like I'm just painting this in Photoshop. Oh, am I copying? Like, am I supposed to use this as reference? Is that what you're asking? Oh, this sheet. Oh, is this on a different layer? That's inside of your homework folder. So if you look through your homework folder, I've given y'all all the references for it, and I just like clicked and dragged it into Photoshop. So I clicked and dragged it into Photoshop. It's a separate file. Yeah, like if you look on the top, the titles are there. So this is number 5 for references, and this is number 3.
other-
Gotcha. Yeah, they're different files. So you usually can't have two of the same files open unless they're saved in like two different places. Or like if one of them is like a ghost file and it's like just open and you move it. So yeah, like so it'll be I just basically grab them. So just to like show you. So I would just like grab them like this And if you like click and drag the, oh shoot, wrong folder. This is for Wednesday. But if you like just grab them and you like click and drag it to like the tabs, it like opens up a new one. Oh, yeah, if you drag it onto like the assignment, it adds like a new layer. So it like places it in there. That's a good question. Any other questions, Joel? Awesome. Okay, let's do the box. Quick trick. I'm gonna select my background and my floor. Control J for Jesse. Easiest thing to remember. It duplicates whatever layers you have selected. I'm also gonna put this in a group. So you can click and drag this to the folder. Let's just put these on a group. And I'm gonna move these down. So I'm just gonna use this background to kind of start. Go ahead and make a new layer. And I can actually grab this like black and just like move it down more. I'm gonna just gonna use my transform tool. So Control T to transform. And you can like squash, stretch, rotate, whatever you want. So Control T, let's just move it down. Let's go ahead and grab, I guess I'll use red and like we'll like grayscale it or something like that. So just to kind of draw on here. Okay, something kind of like this. Just a quick sketch. And let's go ahead and get the cast shadows. By the way, it's just to kind of go over like cast shadows for boxes really quick. Just kind of good to know. Like like all of these angles over here, like because like a light like radiates, what's just good to know is like all these are probably coming, like if we look at the back over here, you draw a line kind of going from each corner to each. The light is probably hitting all these corners. And what's happening is like once you hit all these corners, you know this is where the start of the cast shadow is. So it makes it easy for us to kind of determine where it hits. You all see that, right? So like just kind of good to know, like just kind of sketching this out. When you're trying to think of like boxes, you have to think about like when the light hits each of those corners and they hit the floor, like where they kind of like hit and like just kind of connect the dots. Wait, let me keep this sketch too. I like this sketch. Uh, and then let's Command Z. Okay, I'll keep the sketch on a different layer. Keep it on a different layer. So if y'all want to like look at it later, you can. Okay, let's go ahead and paint this box. So I'm gonna go ahead and if y'all have like colored line work, you could go to Image, Adjustments, desaturate your line work. You can set on multiply, but I actually need these white lines. I think they're gonna help out. So to kind of start off, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna use my selection tool for this time. I'm going to make a selection around the whole box first, kind of like this. Let's go ahead and fill it in with one tone. Oh, shoot. Go ahead and fill it in with one tone, like that. And I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go ahead and select these corners. Another thing like a selection does is it allows us to paint inside of an area without it, what is it, leaving the selection, right? So actually, let's make a selection of the whole box first, and then let's deselect this part. So that way we don't have to like deselect, what is it? We don't have to like deselect the silhouette on the parts of the silhouette on the outside. Just to kind of double check. Like some of these corners here, you can like fix them up a little bit. That was an 850. Kind of like this. Make another, we can make another layer. Let's make this layer darker. So you can separate these onto different layers too. That tends to help. And let's also do the shadow layer. So for the shadow layer, it's going to be something probably kind of sort of like this. So now that we have all our line work off, we can see we kind of have something like this. Anybody have any questions so far? Awesome. Okay. So just to kind of like begin, let's see. I guess I'll work on the cast shadow first since I'm on that layer. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of some of these edges. Just soft brush, soft brush, kind of like that. Let's go ahead and make a selection. I'm going to darken these parts. And then over here, same thing. Something kind of like that. And there we go. I think this is pretty good for the cast shadow. We can probably like soften this part just a little bit more, but looking pretty good so far. Now what I want to do is let's go over here. Let's make a selection here. I'm going to grab a soft brush. Let's go ahead and make this lighter. And there we go. We have the mid-tone lights. Over here, I'm going to make a selection. Let's go ahead and darken some of these parts. Darken some of these parts. And then lighten up some of these parts where the reflective light is. And then the last thing I would do is let's go ahead and throw in the highlight. Over here, like if you look at it, like there's three sides, right? Now, if this was, so I want to show you all something really quick. Whenever you have a three-sided cube and each of the sides are different values, kind of like this. So one is like really, really dark. So I want to teach you all a new term because later we're going to use this term in class. Okay, this is what we call a 1, 2, 3 read. Okay, you can see three sides, one dark side, one medium side, one light side. Okay, 1, 2, 3 reads are really great for telling form because you can see three dimensions. Now, in our current state, the top side and the front side are very similar. You see that, right? So what's happening is the light is probably hitting that bevel, and then it disperses equally from that. That bevel is the middle of the light, and then it disperses equally. It'll create a 1, 2, 3 read if we move the light a little bit higher or a little bit lower, but because it's hitting the middle, those two are going to be the same shade. Does that kind of make sense, everyone? Awesome. Okay, so if I want to create that like highlight, all I got to do, let's go ahead and make a new layer. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab some white. And we're just going to go ahead and create a highlight right here. And if you want things to look a little more realistic, you could also probably add a bevel to like some of these parts too. Something kind of good to know is like it's pretty rare to see refined human-made objects and props without bevels. Like most, like if you look at the TV, even the corners like are a little bit rounded. You know, like yeah, and I'm not saying you can't find sharp things. You can totally find sharp things and sharp corners, but it tends to be like if something is like made by like humans, like we tend to like to bevel like those parts a little bit more. Okay, so if you want to make it a little bit more natural, you can add a little bit of bevel to it. And if you want to make it a little bit more sketchy, like you know, you don't have to add the texture, but you could add like some hatches like on here, and you see it starts to look like a lot more rich. Like I'm just like kind of using like the same colors that you're gonna find in those areas and just it's very, very subtle, but look at how like a little bit of texture just like makes this like look and feel a lot more rich. It doesn't feel like before it kind of felt like computer graphics, right? But now it feels like hand drawn a little bit, right? The thing about like Okay, and by the way, it's like the way we're painting right now, the way I'm rendering, we call that airbrush like rendering because we're using like a soft brush to create forms. But I always like to go back in and add a little bit of like a hard brush rendering and a little bit of texture to make it look like it's like been hand drawn. Okay, that's kind of like my trick. It's like instead of like hand drawing all these things in the beginning, I like do the shading really like vaguely and then like I go back in and like I add texture. And it makes it feel very natural, y'all. Anybody have any questions on this? Awesome. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that. Hopefully, it's just a recharge thing. And don't forget to label them too, y'all. Let me save this real quick. Really quickly, y'all. I actually wanna take a break. Um, we'll do a quick one. Yeah, let's come back at like 9:01. A quick restroom water break. 9:02. Yeah, maybe like 6 minutes. So let's take like a really, really quick break, and then when we get back, I'm just gonna wrap up like the cylinder and like the cone. Yeah, we're zooming 2 minutes. I'll probably finish these up, and when we're done, I'll just let y'all go. So shouldn't take too long. I think like I'll be done in like 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up, y'all. Ooh, that's why. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, for the cone, I'll do the cone first. Do something triangular. A cylinder to me is actually like a rounded square or rounded rectangle, but like a square could also turn into a, what is it, cube. So if we're doing like this over here, we can. So if you're like just constructing the cylinder, that's kind of how I like to construct a cylinder, is drawing kind of like a plus sign. You can also draw like the whole box and the whole X thing. But like in general, like, you want to make sure that you have like equal pizza slices. Closer to you, it might be a little bit bigger, if you want to like throw in some perspective, but it's kind of how I think of it. And then we have, what is it, the light coming down this way, right? And if this is the center point over here, we can understand that that's kind of how it connects. Let's go ahead and make some selections. I'm just going to paint on top this time. Just keep it quicker. Okay, there we go. Let's go and do the same here. There we go. We got our base, right? This bottom part's a little bit off. Selection. Small brush first for the top. The thing about a cone is at the top it gets narrower, so like the transition between like the surfaces have to be like sharper. But as it goes like towards the bottom, it gets wider. So the transition between the surfaces are going to look a little bit more softer. Okay, so like over here towards the bottom, I have to use a bigger brush, but towards the top, I probably have to use a thinner brush to kind of like get that to read. Because like if I use like just a consistent brush the whole time, it feels really weird and flat. But if I have this over here, it shows that like, okay, like as I kind of get closer to the top, darken this. As I get closer to the top, like that point is getting narrower. So we can kind of do that first. Go ahead. Let's remake that selection. Oh, another good trick, y'all. If you press Control H, you can hide your selections. It's gonna ask you if you want to hide Photoshop or just preferences first or something like that. Just press the preferences one. Hide extras. It'll ask you to hide extras. So just hide extras. So once it's hidden, you can still have the selection there. You just don't see it. If you press Control H again, it makes it reappear. So something like this. Let's get the reflective light in. Make this part brighter. Towards the top, it's really bright, and then it gets lighter as it goes down. Go to the cast shadow. Let's get this darker first. I'm going to go ahead and reshape this. And then let's go ahead and erase out of these parts. And then let's add a move this a little higher, actually. A little higher. There we go. Add a contact shadow. Contact shadow has to get thinner as it recedes too. Like you have to think about depth. Like in the towards the middle over here, it's a little bit thicker, but towards over here, it's a little bit thinner because it's like going away. And again, if you want to add texture, you can always go back in and you can always like add like a little bit more texture to make it feel like hand drawn. Oops. You could have like hatches add texture too. Anybody have any questions about the cylinder? I mean, the cone before I work on the cylinder? Awesome. So cylinder pretty easy. If I'm constructing it, let's start off with a box. And then at both sides, right? If we cut it in the middle, this part over here is probably going to be like a lot rounder. By the way, y'all, when you're drawing cylinders and ellipses, so this is a really important rule. I want everybody like because you will for sure lose points if I like see this like on any like really important assignment. Okay. You are never supposed to create lemons. Okay. You should never have lemons. Okay. Unless like the actual like shape of your cylinder looks like this, which is like an actual lemon. Okay, for these parts. Ellipses are always round. Okay, like if you're trying to create an ellipse and you can't create like a perfect C like going front and back like this, it doesn't look right already. Same for really thin ellipses. Like really thin ones, they should always be like just really flat circles. They should never ever get like pointy at the end. Okay, like the pointiest they'll get at the end is maybe when it's so flat they're just right on top of each other. So like for these like bottom parts over here, they have to like round into these parts over here. And the same for like the other side too, is they have to round kind of like that. Whereas for the top part, like when I'm doing this, like you want to make sure that these parts, let me check the reference. Oh yeah, these parts, like these parts over here have to be round too. They can't be sharp. Like if I do something kind of like this, that already looks wrong. So just like good to know, y'all. Like make sure to round your ellipses. Okay. It's out this way. it's a little off, like angle wise, but that's okay. We just go with it. All right. Go ahead and make a selection. And I'm just going to go ahead and make two selections. So one like this, and then one kind of like that. Go ahead and block it in. There we go. Got to fix those corners, no lemons. And Toyota of Orange would like love me right now. And it's just like an Orange County inside joke. Huh?
The like jingle.
I know, right? They've been like doing it for years. I finally passed by the Toyota of Orange like once, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And they had like lemon, like pictures of lemons everywhere. And they're like, "You won't get one of these." And I was like, "That's so funny." I love that. Okay, there we go. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just make a selection on the on this part on the top, kind of like this. I'm just gonna go ahead and make that a different value first, so just a little bit lighter. Go and turn off this, yeah, turn off the sketch for now. Actually, no, let's just leave it on because I wanna use it for cast shadows. Let's multiply it though. And then for the cast shadow, just gonna readjust it so it fits our reference a little bit better. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so now you kind of got stuff like this. Let's go ahead and make a selection here again. Now, one way you can make a selection is you can use your magic wand tool. Magic wand is a really great tool. What it does is if you click on a color, it just selects everything that's the same color. Now, these two are obviously different tones, and it's because the tolerance level is like at 32. The higher the tolerance, the more color it selects. So I'm going to put it at 0, so that way it only selects whatever tones and hues I choose. So if I select the gray here, it only stays on this gray now. Now with this, I'm going to go ahead and grab a soft round brush. Let's go ahead and get our soft round. Go ahead and do this. Go ahead and add our reflective light. Let's go ahead and add our highlight. And again, if you want to go in and add textures to make it a little bit more rich with like artistic with the artistic aesthetic, you can go in and like throw in a little bit of like textures. And then for the top, because these two tones are really similar, I'm probably just going to make a circular selection here. So something kind of like this. And I'm just going to go and get a soft brush. Let's go ahead and reblock it in really quick just to make sure. A shadow over here for the core shadow. Now, the cylinder is going to have two core shadows because it needs to define the roundness of the cylinder in this part and also like the flat surface. So it's important to make sure that, you know, if the light is being angled at this direction, you may get like two core shadows. If it's angled from the top, you may get a highlight here instead, right? But once we have this, what we're going to do, let's go ahead and grab a hard round brush. I gotta be careful of this part. And let's go ahead and add a little bit of a highlight right here. A little bit more white right here, kind of like that. And then for the cast shadow, let's go ahead and soften the edges first. Wait, I want to show y'all a really quick new tool before we continue, because this could be a really helpful tool for like blocking in. Um, Everybody here knows how to lock your layers, right? Y'all know what like locking layers does. Anybody not know? Okay, so y'all know what happens when you lock your layers too. Like you can't do anything to them, right? Okay, you all see this little button with the checkerboard, like right next to your locks? These are all different kinds of locks. The checkerboard one, if you lock it, it makes it so anything you paint on that layer stays inside of like the painted parts. So like I can do this, like if I unlock it and I go like and I make like different spots and like I like make like different textures. It doesn't matter how fine the texture is. If I lock it and I grab another brush, it'll only paint inside of those parts. So it makes it so that I can control what I want in like very detailed spaces. So what I want to do right now is I kind of just want to like lock this and then I'm going to go ahead. Now, the thing you have to be careful is erasing. If you erase, it makes it white. So you have to make sure you choose certain colors and you work on top instead. So I'm just like painting this with gray and you can see like it's not going away. It's just I'm just painting it with gray. It just looks like I'm erasing it. Now, as you get closer to the light source or closer to like where the shadow is casting, it is going to get a little bit sharper. Go ahead and like unlock this. Cool. Okay, something kind of like that. And there we go. We got our four forms. Anybody have any questions on this before? I'm going to wrap the class up. And for those of you, if you want to leave after this, you can leave a little bit early. If you want to stay behind, class is technically open until 9:35. So I'll be happy to stay with whoever wants to stay. But anybody have any questions? Okay, so before I let you all go, really quickly, this Wednesday we're gonna be doing our batch two voting. Okay, so if you haven't like posted like your what is it, your whatever you wanted to like do for project one, like the photographs in like the discussion board, make sure they're in by Wednesday before class starts. Also, your first assignment, like the shapes and lines packet, the one where we did like the Zentangle, like the rows, like tracing thing and all that stuff, like that's going to be due on this Wednesday too. Please make sure that is inside of the Google Drive. There should be folders, what is it, made already for that. If you don't see a folder, please let me know. Okay, but there should be folders for these things. But other than that, though, anybody have any questions? Yes.
That's just the pictures of the, right? Like,
Mhm. Yeah, if you already posted your 10, you don't have to do it. So it's just for people who didn't post last week.